welcome. This is Women in Music Journalism, our second round. I am Olivia and we are Amethyst Collab. If you don't already, make sure you go find us on Instagram. It's at Amethyst Collab. We are going to be making a few very exciting announcements before the end of the week, so make sure you're on our Instagram. That's pretty much where we're the most active. We're on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. You can find us everywhere. Lottie will be putting all of our socials in the chat at some point, so look out for those. And welcome. So we are going to go and give a quick introduction to each of our panelists, just say a few words about who you are and who you write for, etc. And Heran, if you want to go ahead and start us off.
Hi everyone, I'm Heran Mamo. I am a staff writer at Billboard. I just started actually this month, so pretty fresh to the role itself, but not the company. I've actually been freelancing for Billboard for the last year and a half almost, so yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Heran. Kiersten, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Kiersten. I write for HipHop Weekly. I started with them in July. So I've been there a couple of months, still fairly new. And I've been writing for almost close to 7 years now.
Amazing. Thank you, Kiersten. And Bri, you're up.
Hi everyone, I'm Bri Younger. I am currently freelance. My latest work has mostly been at NPR. I was a music editor at The New Yorker prior to that. And yeah, just kind of floating around.
Awesome. Thank you, Bri. Krysta, it's all you.
Hi everyone, I'm Krysta Hawkins. I'm also a floater. I'm contributing right now for Forbes. I literally just got it this week, but I've also written for Teen Vogue, Essence, and Elle.
Amazing. Thank you, Krysta. And Ashley, go ahead.
Same as those two. I'm a floater as well, which seems to be a common theme in music journalism, but we'll talk about that later. I've been freelancing for BuzzFeed, Lady Gun, Insider, and a whole bunch of other cool publications. And I pretty much just cover music, pop culture, LGBTQ culture for those publications.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. Sloan, it's all you.
Hi, I'm Sloan Pecchia. I'm a freelance writer. Right now I'm contributing to Earmilk, Ones to Watch, and The Wild Honey Pie. And then I also am just like generally a writer, so I also do some stand-up comedy work and songwriting as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Sloan. Bobby.
Hey everyone, I am Lauren Bobby Penn Williams. I am a multimedia journalist and contributing writer to Revolt, The Griot, Hello Beautiful. So I cover all things culture, and it's definitely an honor to be on this panel with all of you amazing women.
Thank you, Bobby. Robyn, you're up.
Hi everyone, I'm Robyn Mowatt. I'm a staff writer at Okayplayer, where I mainly cover women in hip hop. I also cover streetwear and culture news. Happy to be here.
Amazing. Okay, as you can see, we have a really stacked panel here of amazing women, so we're gonna jump right into it. So first we're gonna discuss, one of the hottest topics in today, music industry kind of across the board. What are some exciting developments in music journalism that have come out of the COVID-19 digital age? And how has your job as a journalist adapted due to COVID? And you can all jump in freely to this one.
Well, I feel like accessibility changed a bit. Everyone's home and was trying to understand how to get creative with the social media and the tools that we have to stay connected. So I've really enjoyed watching some of my favorite musicians develop their own talk shows where they interview other artists, or creating podcasts and the whole wave that's happening over at Apple Music.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of Bobby Penn. Just seeing the adaptability with everybody, not only journalists, but artists themselves, and seeing how they've become creative and how it's made us adapt to a new way of life, and, having Zoom interviews and stuff like that. So I think that's one of the main points.
If I can also add, I think for me personally, as a staff writer, I'm now like a host for Okayplayer's like different series on Instagram. So I feel like it's not just artists that are having to pivot, it's also like staff writers and other people that maybe typically wouldn't even want to do things on camera. And then I will also add the availability for like artists for interviews has skyrocketed this year because of COVID. So that's definitely a shift that I think is something that is great about the pandemic. That's it.
Thank you, Robyn. That's a great perspective.
I read an article this morning on Rolling Stone about how music journalism has been moving over to TikTok due to the pandemic. So there are like all of these different TikTok channels that are playing people's music, and then those people are getting like tons and tons of streams. And there were a few in particular. I think one's called like Love in a Movie, and then the other one is called like Mostly Music or something like that. And it was really interesting just to see how like journalism was changing over to TikTok, when this time last year I didn't even really know what TikTok was.
Yeah, I read that same exact article this morning, literally 8 hours ago, I think, and it was talking about how people are also kind of tired of just being interviewed by the same old journalists over and over again, and how the journalism industry is really being like encompassed by so many Gen Zers and all of that. So I think it's cool how younger and more modern the field is getting.
Awesome. That's great insight, Ashley. Anyone else want to chime in?
I was gonna say, you know, kind of in speaking about TikTok, there's a lot of different platforms coming up for the live music space. We have Versus on IG Live, and we have a lot of like panels on Clubhouse now with like journalists speaking to artists or music executives, which I think is really exciting because it gives, you know, fans and people that are super interested in music more accessibility to, you know, those conversations. And like at home concerts, you know, as someone who covers a lot of concerts, it's crazy to never be going to venues anymore and seeing those live shows. And so to be covering like mini shows from my own home and, you know, just rocking out with my coffee mug or whatever, I think is really exciting to see that adaptability come about.
I like that part too. Anyone else?
I also wanted to mention, speaking of articles we've read, Corey Murray of Essence did a piece about how they would select their covers during this period based on whether or not the artist or the celebrity they selected could like do their own hair, makeup, and photography. So I thought that was really creative. I've seen a lot of publications do that as well, where the artist is actually their own creative director and they work with their team to develop covers. So it's just really been an interesting time to watch everyone pivot and shift.
That's really interesting. All right, anyone else on this one? Okay, we're going to move to our next question. So this one, shifting a little more towards your personal experience as a journalist. What have been some of your favorite articles to write and your favorite artist stories to tell that you've done in your career so far? And again, you can all jump in.
I'll go. My favorite one to date I have two, but my favorite one has to be, I wrote about Nipsey Hussle and the anniversary of his death, and that was just so important to me because coming from, you know, from LA, California, it meant a lot to me, and it was one of my first big articles, and I literally got it by stalking that editor, and it just was a huge accomplishment for me because I'm originally from Compton, but I live in I grew up in Reno Valley, which is a very small town, and you never hear anybody writing for something as big as Teen Vogue or anything like that. And then my second one will have to be in Elle magazine. I wrote about No Name and like basically saying that Black liberation starts with the Black woman. And I just love the feedback I received and how hard I worked on it, and having my message be able to be clear to the audience, because that's really what I wanted, was to people to see that, you know, the way you can tell how good a community is doing is if you look at their women. And that's basically what I was able to do through my article. So those are my favorite.
That's amazing, Krysta. Thank you.
I'll go. Sorry.
You can go.
Okay. I think for me, top story was previously at my last job at HypeBay, where I was an associate editor. I got to interview Megan Thee Stallion before she blew up, and that was like a really fun experience. I met her mom before she passed, so that was like really great. And you know, just I'm thinking second story. This is kind of culture centric, but I was able to interview Nina Serafina, who is she's a producer, screenwriter, and she's just a really dope creative. And I did a piece on Lena Waithe and Dove. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but it was like this whole debacle like on social media where Dove had like a project that was kind of like hijacking what Nina had kind of done as like a project years prior. And so I basically was just like, the headline was, did Lena Waithe steal this story from an Atlanta screenwriter? And so I did brunch with Nina after this story ran, and she was just like, you changed my life. Like I had a meeting with Lena after this, and people were basically just championing her as like a screenwriter and writer like after that story. And I just felt really good about her getting that space and having a platform to tell her side of the story. Because unfortunately, you know, creators sometimes run into things like that where like someone that's like a mainstream name who maybe is not aware that this is a project that someone has previously done, because Dove or like any huge conglomerates are able to sometimes just kind of take ideas. So that's really near and dear to me, because I just like to make sure that Black women are represented, not just in music, but just also just culture wise, because, you know, like people deserve to have their thoughts heard and like their side of the story told. So it's another one for me.
It's really important. Thank you, Robyn.
So I'll go. So I also failed to mention that I also am a floater, and I also write for It's Too Much Info. So the blog that I wrote for them, well, the article that I wrote for them was based around credit. I'm most proud of that one because growing up, I knew nothing about credit, the importance of it, and how you really need it to like succeed and survive through life. That one was really big for me, and it's gotten a lot of views and a lot of hits, and a lot of people were really excited about that one. And a lot of younger people too, they were like, wow, I didn't know the ins and outs and how important credit is and how much you need it to like really get through life. So I was really proud of that article.
Thank you.
I think for me, I might have a little bit of recency bias going on, but I think working on the Southern Rap Canon, which Robyn was a part of, shout out, my Southerner here, it was just really fulfilling. I think you spend a lot of time as a writer trying to get to the point where you can like come up with projects on your own and see them through. And so it was kind of that perfect mixture of like a passion project coming into life and not just like for the money or for the look or anything like that. And it was just like really fulfilling and involved, and we got to have a little group chat and just kind of bonded with a bunch of amazing Southern Black music writers, and we put together a canon for Southern rap. And yeah.
It was amazing. Thank you, Bri. Anyone else want to share recent accomplishments?
Go for it, Sloan.
Okay. So this isn't so much recent, but I think the first article that I ever really wrote having to do with music is probably something that I'm the most proud of. I just graduated from USC in May from their music industry program. And during my sophomore year, I had been writing for this online publication called The Odyssey Online. And a lot of colleges around the country just have different chapters of it. And I figured out, a friend of mine recommended that when I went to go see Switchfoot and Lifehouse at the Greek, that I ask the opener if she wanted to do an interview with me for an article on the Odyssey. And I did, and that's kind of how I even like fell into music journalism, and I had absolutely like no idea what I was doing. I just like went up to her and asked her if she would be interested and interviewed her and like put it all together into a story. And then from there, I just kept writing and getting actually placed in music publications rather than just like general publications.
Congratulations, Sloan.
Thank you.
I'd have to say that I was really grateful to accomplish a dream interview, which is with Brandy. I think over the spring when she was releasing her album B7, and it was coincidentally right before Moesha was on Netflix. Shout out to Stronger Black Lead for that. And it was just so crazy. I've never been almost moved to tears because meeting your hero virtually through Zoom like this, but to grow up watching Brandy be the first Black Disney princess, and then ask her about, Halle from Chloe and Halle becoming another Black Disney princess when she's going to be Ariel in The Little Mermaid was just an amazing feat. And it was something that I got to connect, those generations as a little girl that, grew up watching all those Disney princess movies and wanting to be represented so badly. And to see Brandy do that and to give advice and to, keep being the amazing woman and singer that she is. And she also just complimented me on my interviewing style. Was I think, you really love what you do. And I feel I really needed to hear that advice at that time. Just, during quarantine, you're bogged down. You feel work is the only thing going for you, but to be, applauded that you're doing your job well by someone that you admire is, amazing.
That's huge.
So incredible. And it's really hard to narrow down, I guess, maybe my favorite moment. I've been doing this for about 15 years now, worked in radio, and I've met everybody or every type of person you can think of. So with that said, I think for me, something in recent that I'm proud of was the ability to pivot. So for REVOLT, during the George Floyd and different social unrest that we were experiencing this year, I had the opportunity to sort of pivot and tell more socially aware stories. And I was able to identify one of the muralists who painted the original Black Lives Matter on the streets in Washington, D.C. So to be able to track her down and tell her story in a way that really was a local news story and make it national news was a super challenge. Again, I'm out of my comfort zone. This is not entertainment. This is very serious. Also, it's very art heavy. And then I'm taking a subject that's not famous and making it important. So I'm really proud of that piece. I love how it came out and how I was able to represent my hometown. And in that same vein, I also had the opportunity to interview former NFL player Junior Gillette and tell his story of racial bias within the NFL, which two spectrums are out of my escape as well. I don't know sports and, I'm not a lawyer. So that was really interesting to work with his team and what can I say, what can't I say, how do I have to word this question? So this year definitely challenged me and pushed me out of my comfort zone. And it always feels good to conquer something you didn't think you could do.
Congratulations, Bobby. It's amazing.
I think a piece that I was shocked even got as much coverage and as many clicks as it got was my latest interview is with Taylor Parks. And if you're an Arianator, she has written a numerous amount of songs for that icon, and just for so many other superstars. So I think it was super cool that I even got the opportunity to kind of just discuss her latest project, which is Coping Mechanisms, and then get more personal with her and then ask about her love life, her coping mechanisms. And yeah, it just got great reviews on it, and I'm really happy about it. But she was super dope. And then you asked what was a challenging kind of project I worked on. So I feel as a Black woman working in music journalism, a lot of times you'll have interactions with just white men, whether it be higher ups or other celebrities that you have to interview. And I think a lot of the time it's hard, or you can get cognitive dissonance kind of avoiding certain topics. So in one of my interviews, which was just memorable because of how insane it was, but I was speaking with this white artist who will not be named, but somehow the topic of gentrification came up in our interview, and I have no idea how or why, but he brought it up. I didn't even bring it up. So it's just kind of crazy, awkward conversations that you'll have with artists sometimes and just be what is this dude talking about? But you kind of just have to keep it professional. And as challenging as that can be sometimes, you kind of just gotta keep it to the music, and not get into controversial issues, no matter how opinionated you may be on it. So that's definitely a challenge I have faced and continue to face in this industry.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, thank you everyone for sharing those. And so we're gonna move to our next question. What have been some challenging moments in your career and how did you overcome them?
I think finding that balance between getting over like imposter syndrome, but also not feeding into your own hype, I think is has been one of the bigger challenges for me. Because like you want to believe that, you know, you deserve to be in the rooms that you're in. You want to believe that you deserve to have the bylines that you have, but also you don't want to start to like feel like you're like above, you know, reproach, that your work is perfect, that everything you do is just, you know, the end all be all. You always want to be striving to improve, but also, you know, feeling like you are that girl at the same time, and just kind of finding the balance in that, I think has been a challenge that I'm hopefully figuring out.
That was great. I'll add next. I think for me, the most challenging part is it's been the journey itself. I think as a Black woman in journalism in general, I think that we deal with a lot of hurdles that some people that are not Black may never have to face in the industry. And I say that because initially when I moved to New York, I'm based in Brooklyn, by the way, I had hopes of becoming a fashion editor. And so to me, it's just very full circle that I'm writing about culture and writing about music, because growing up, both of my parents are from New York. I was always immersed in music. I loved hip hop. I loved R&B. But I never saw myself as a music journalist until I really just kind of sat down with myself and was just like, okay, this is kind of coming easy to me, so I need to just kind of embrace it. And I think that sometimes because some of these journalism spaces are extremely white and extremely male, and we maybe are not seeing people as senior staff writers or staff writers that are Black and brown women, it's just difficult to really even see yourself having that type of position or having that type of role and even having that type of power to write about whatever you want to write about at whatever publication you work at. So I think the journey for me, it was just filled with a lot of pushback sometimes with some editors that I was reporting to, even just as an intern and sometimes as a freelancer. So just really just trying to jump through those hurdles I think that was like the most difficult part of my journey. But I think once I really realized like it's okay to be a Black woman writing about culture, and it's not me being pigeonholed, it's me really writing about what I love. That was when it just really came to me. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to embrace it and I'm just going to do it. And I love it a lot. So.
Yeah, definitely piggybacking off what you guys said. I felt so like, I hate to say insecure, but really insecure, really frustrated just because I know I'm talented. And a lot of the times I didn't have that opportunity to show that. And I felt like, I hate to go here, but I feel like a lot of people were getting that opportunity. And I would sometimes be envious, like, you know, like, I remember there was this one journalist, I'm not going to name them, and she was just saying how she basically never really wanted to write. She just woke up one day, but she was just on CNN. So I was just like, okay, like just being so passionate about it, and sometimes that passion translating into being a Black woman, that passion translating into being angry or, you know, being upset or things like that, just having so much pushback coming from such a small city, like literally where there's no opportunities, and having to, I hate to say, but fight for it. Everything I've gotten, every byline I've worked for, and even feeling like sometimes not getting the pay that everyone else is getting. Or I remember and I'm grateful for Essence, but I remember I wrote for Essence, and the first pitch that I wanted, it didn't get picked up. And this was around the time that everyone was protesting, and I had a huge pitch that I wanted to write for them, and it didn't get picked up. And then kind of like a blurb style article, she told me, one of the editors, like, you know, if you want to write it, you can go ahead. And I was really disappointed because I was like, I want a hard hitting article. This is Essence. I want to be taken serious. But, you know, it was Essence. And I had to really, you know, sit back and humble myself and say, you know, the byline is a byline. It's still an important message that you're trying to send. So, you know, just basically to accept the opportunities when they come and continue to strive for more. That's really been my thing, because I always feel like I'm downplayed because I don't have a lot of bylines, or I just got started. But basically being able to humble myself and work and continue to work hard for everything I want. That's, yeah.
I'll go next. I just want to say, finding your own lane. It's pretty hard because everybody's doing the same thing now. So it's pretty much finding your style and your way of, you know, bringing your writing to life so it captures your audience. So finding a lane was pretty tough for me, and still is kind of hard for me. I struggle with it daily. And just being confident in yourself, because as like the women said before me, being a Black woman, it is a little bit tough for us, and we do kind of have to like fight a little bit harder because of everything that's going on right now. So yeah, I would just say finding your own lane and being confident in your own writing.
I'll add in, oh, you can go.
I'll make it quick. I was going to say to that, as a freelancer too, like finding the balance between chasing the next story, getting your next byline, which is essentially your next check, and like taking time for yourself. And I don't know if anyone has felt this way, but definitely in this pandemic, I have pushed myself to limits I didn't think that I could. And on the one hand, I'm really proud of that, but at the end of the year, I'm like feeling it. So I think just finding that balance of, I love what I do, I'm passionate about what I do, I'm a workaholic because of that, but at the same time, I am a human and not a machine. Like, I'm still working on that.
I was just going to add another challenge I faced, but I personally identify as generally a pop culture journalist as opposed to a music journalist, just because I found it so incredibly hard just as a Black woman to even get the accessibility into the specific music journalism industry. But I will say to never give up like on pop culture in general, because you can always find kind of loopholes into music specifically. Like, I started out in TV and film, and my very first internship was at TV Guide magazine, and I just kind of used that to my advantage, and I would like write about stories that were like music focused. So whether that be soundtracks in TV shows and film, or music documentaries, or writing about, I wrote an article like 8 hip-hop shows every fan should watch. I feel like there's always kind of loopholes. So if you're struggling to get that specific music, like music journalism content, I would say that there's always kind of a way that you can do it and like cater it toward yourself and your own goals.
I think something that I have been struggling with and am trying to just generally overcome is that like everything I write needs to be perfect, because a lot of the time, like I won't even start writing until I have an idea of what it is in my mind, and it needs to be like exactly the way I think it needs to be in order for it to even go down on the paper. So I think just overcoming the need for perfection, because at the end of the day, I'm going to go back to an article that I wrote however long ago, and I'm going to see that maybe I should have framed something differently, or I should have added a word here or there. And it's because I'm growing as a writer, I need to like give myself grace in my writing. So that is something that I'm personally trying to overcome.
I dealt with that yesterday, girl.
I deal with that every day, so you're not alone.
Thank you.
I think a lot of the amazing women here have touched on like the specific struggles of being a Black woman in journalism. And I think what was really difficult for me this year was, you know, covering the Black Lives Matter movement, covering Megan and Tory and the shooting. You have to give yourself a lot of grace, and you have to take breaks. And there's a lot of pain in those stories. And sometimes it weirdly becomes your pain, because it becomes a shared experience as Black women as a whole. But sometimes because you know what's up, you know, it's a collective truth, you can turn and transform that pain into the power of your pen. And I think I had to really remind myself, you know, every single day, like, I'm not setting aside the pain that I feel and, you know, the empathy that I have, I am just re-transforming that. And so always remind yourself that you do have, you know, the power to pick yourself up and to channel that empathy and that compassion and that experience, that lived experience that you have as a Black woman, to write those stories. But don't, you know, pressure yourself to keep at it. Like, if you need to take a break, like, please do so. I'm a workaholic, so it's very hard for me to take a day off. Like, next week I'm off and I don't even know how to feel. So give yourself grace always.
It's really important. Thank you, Heran. Anyone else? So you all kind of touched on, you know, learning to give yourself grace, and like Heran just mentioned, do you all have any tips for young women, you know, starting their journalism career or looking to get into it, on how you've given yourself grace, or any advice on how to kind of navigate that path as well?
Well, I heard Bri mention imposter syndrome, and I think that is something very real. And if you want something bad enough, I think it's just going to happen naturally. And as I'm in my 30s now, I don't know how old everyone else is. I feel like I'm the oldest on the group. I am still working through that now, in terms of finding the balance, but exactly what Bri said, finding the balance between knowing that I've worked hard for this and that I am good enough, but also trying to still be humble and mindful of the people around you. And I feel like that can be one of your biggest pitfalls, is looking at what everyone else is doing. So what I had to do this year for myself, the people that I admire, sometimes, I don't know if you guys experience this with social media, I'm always on Instagram, and I'm like, man, I really wish so-and-so would have liked this post, or I see you posting, or you like so-and-so's content, but you don't like mine. Like, that hurts a little bit. So instead of completely removing those people or giving so much energy to where the love is not coming from, I chose to mute those people. So I still love you, you still there, but I need to focus on where the love is coming from and what is my objective. And I think when you really focus, narrow in, and don't compare your journey to anyone else's, that allows you the freedom and the flexibility to do what you need to do to get to the next step. So hopefully that helps somebody. Like I said, I know I wasted some time, I can admit that, just looking at what was happening to the left of me. Like, I can be happy for you, but deep down, like, man, like, I kind of thought that should have been my opportunity, like Krysta said, or like, how did you get that? I've been doing this for X number of years, or I studied this, and like, you got it and you just woke up one day. So I think, again, if you can just focus in on your focus, that's one of my favorite quotes, so simple, but it's so deep. Like, focus on your focus and you'll blow your own mind.
Oh, I like that myself.
I was like, definitely second. I definitely second that. Like, I'm a strong proponent of, like, it sounds like brash, but like, I'm very much on the team of like minding my business. Like, and like, I'm sure to like an outsider, it can look like, oh, like, you're not being like supportive of your peers. Because I think, you know, especially on social media, there's a lot of pressure to like be very performative in your support, and be very performative in like who you're aligned with and who you're cool with, and etc. And I'm just very much like, I'm minding my business. Like, this is my journey. This is my path. Quite no one is paying my bills but me. No one is getting in the grave with me when I die. Like, I'm minding my business. I'm going to do what makes me comfortable, what feeds me, what gives me energy. And if it looks crazy from the outside, that's also not my business. Like, that's the person, whoever is looking, they got to deal with that. And so, yeah, exactly what Bobby said. I think just focusing on your path and what you want and what's making you feel good and the stories you want to tell. And the rest is going to be the rest. I think if you arrive at situations with like positive, genuine energy, the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Krysta.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Oh, it's two people? I'm just like, can I go? I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just add on real quickly. I think the biggest advice for me that I remember, so my first internship when I moved to New York 5 years ago was at Ebony. I wasn't being paid. I remember one of the editors, I was having a conversation with her about just the journey. I was feeling discouraged, and I'm only like a couple months into my time in New York. And she was like, it's time for you to put your big girl panties on. And that has always stuck with me for the past 5 years. And then Kiersten Mayo was editor-in-chief at that time. She told me to just keep pushing, literally. Like anytime I sat and had a conversation with her, she was just saying like, keep pushing, keep going. And I think it's hard sometimes for women and just Black women, whatever industry you're in, to really see whatever dream job that is, whatever's coming next. It's hard for us to really see that because we may be working hard as interns, working hard as freelancers. So we're just like, is all this work in vain? So I think for me, that would be my word of advice, is don't give up. Just keep sticking with it. Like, it's going to work out eventually. And then to tap into what Bri was saying, it's so important to bring good energy to whatever situation you're entering into. It could be a 10-minute phone call. It could be you're going out to dinner. Like, that's how me and Bri met. We were at dinner a couple times together, and she's just so sweet. And I really believe that if you're kind to people and you treat people with respect, no matter if they're editor-in-chief, no matter if they're a doorman, no matter of whatever their job is, it's gonna work out for you. So it really does not matter whatever situation you're in. Just be kind to people and treat people with respect. And whatever that dream job or whatever dream situation, it's gonna come your way as long as you're treating people with respect, treating people with good energy. And Bobby, I definitely be muting people too. Like, I really be doing that. I'm not even gonna flex on that. I really do, because sometimes it's just too much. It's just like, people are blurring the lines sometimes between influencers and journalists, and I just be really tired of it. So I really be muting people. I do. And that protects my peace and it protects my energy.
That's definitely awesome. I'm gonna have to try that. But I would just say, just like everyone said, I pride myself in that I'm a genuine person, and I'm a believer. So I always tell myself, like, you know what, God, like, it's been this far, just me and you, and I haven't had and not to diss anyone who has, but no rich mama and daddy. Didn't go to no super huge school for journalism. It's just been me and you. So, you know, however far you're ready to take me. And I honestly, just like this year towards the end, I realized I have to stop focusing on people, just like Bobby said, like, stop worrying about everyone else and what they're doing, and just center myself on me and just work hard for whatever I want. And I remember when I first started, like, you know, writing, which I kind of did the beginning of this year, and I thought because somebody was a Black woman, they were on my side, they were rooting for me, and it was, you know, we were all on the same team. And I got a rude awakening, and I really hate to seem like that one that speaks down Black women, because I'm not. I love being a Black woman, but these gatekeepers, they're not always going to open the gate for you. And I had to realize that very, very soon in the beginning, and just realizing that if this is what you want to do, let your passion drive you. Do it because this is your passion. Do this because you need to do it. Like, I write because I have no other choice. This is how I live. This is how I get through. And just remembering why, not getting caught up in the Instagram, the Twitter hype, and just really focusing on yourself and your passion and the talent God has given you.
Wow, that was deep. I love that, Krysta. And just to what all the ladies before me said, and again, like Krysta said, I don't come from anybody rich. I came to LA with nothing, and I really started from the ground up. I came out here alone because I wanted my name to, you know, begin to hold weight, and for me to make my own connections as Kiersten. And it's been paying off, and it's been a struggle, and it still is a struggle. But I feel like never look on Instagram and just expect everybody got there, because everybody has a story. Your journey is your journey. It's beauty in the journey, and everybody has to start somewhere. So never doubt yourself. God is always with you, but don't think that prayer alone is going to get you to where you need to be. You also have to put in the work too. So I feel like I'm very spiritual, so I'm always praying to God, and I feel like if you have the right amount of faith with the right amount of work ethic, you can get to where you need to be. And don't rush it, because I still struggle with that too, because I'm like, darn it, why am I not, you know, where this person is? But you never know what they had to go through to get to where they are either, so.
I will add on, because I know we all spoke kind of to the mental side of doing this work, but just to the practice, I would say read a lot, like read so much, possibly read more than you write. And don't even just read music journalism, like read all kinds of genres, and like, you know, learn a voice, learn what kinds of sentences you love, and then try to put sentences together in a way that makes you happy, and that I say turns you on, because I do think a good sentence is orgasmic. And so, yeah, but I would say, just as a matter of practice, like, take care of the mental and your journey, but also like read widely.
And just real quick, I do a lot of writing and music, of course, because I'm on this panel, but I also write a lot about mental health. And I always remind myself, no one's going to post when they got rejected by editors. No one's going to post their failures. No one's going to post, hey, I didn't get this job, or I got denied. Everyone posts their success. So just remember that even though you may be going through your feed and you're just seeing all positive things, it's a climb. It takes time to get there. So just remind yourself that no one's posting their failures. Instagram is nothing but good stuff when you're going through it. Remember that.
It's important.
Also wanted to chime in one more time, Robyn, or a few of the ladies mentioned your energy and being polite and kind to people. That really does go a long way, because I've seen it happen over the years. The intern, the person that was carrying someone's bag, the assistant, is now the editor or head of PR or in some position that could potentially help you. So who you are, your energy really is your brand. So if you can always bring that good energy and treat everyone fair, you never know who could be holding the key to your next opportunity.
I would also just say that if you pitch a story, or you feel like, you know, you have a story but it's not going to get picked up by a music publication, that doesn't necessarily mean that it can't get published online. There are other websites that you can post on, such as like Medium. Some of my favorite articles are on Medium. So I would say, if you like really believe in a story or a piece of music that you feel passionately about and you want to share with other people, there are ways to express that aren't necessarily on like traditional music websites, and I would for sure go for it.
I love that. And I just wanted to add one more thing, because it came to me. Don't be afraid to reach out to people that make themselves available and accessible to you. And that could look like you meet someone for the first time and they give you their phone number. People don't just give you their phone number for no reason. And I didn't realize that until years in, because I was a little uncomfortable sometimes, you know, reaching out to people, like texting them, or reaching out to people, sometimes emailing them. But if someone really goes out of their way to get in touch with you, it's not by chance. And you should really take advantage of someone making themselves available and making themselves accessible to you, because that could look like maybe a year later, they're like an editor somewhere, or they're a person of power somewhere. And you could really just be like, hey, like, can we have like a quick 5-10 minute catch up call, asking them how they're doing. Like, you don't even have to ask them for an opportunity, but really just checking in with people to ask them how they're doing goes a very long way.
That's a great one, Robyn. Thank you. All right, everyone. So on to our next question. Where is the future of music journalism heading, and what should we look out for?
I mean, I think it's whatever people make it at this point. We're seeing, you know, people do it on YouTube or via video outlets. I'm sure we're gonna start seeing people do criticism using like little Twitter voice app. I think music journalism, there's a space in music journalism for whatever medium makes you most comfortable. There's podcasts now at this point. I think it will just kind of look like every man for himself, because the outlets are dying. So it's just kind of gonna come down to how you want to tell the stories you want to tell, and through what medium. I think it's wide open in that regard, and that could be, you know, a positive, that could be inspirational for some people. I think the traditional, you know, the Times is always going to be there. I think the Post is always going to be there, that sort of thing. But other than that, I think the the kids are all right. They're gonna make it look, you know, a new way. I just hope everyone is still keen on like doing the work and that it's still the form and not just I have an opinion, because everyone has an opinion. Yeah.
Thank you, Bri.
I just hope it grows more into like really utilizing more women, especially that have talent and not just the ones that have a following. And I mean, I know it's hard because it's social media and everybody wants to, you know, listen to whoever has the most followers. But I really hope that it's moving more towards talent and, you know, really skills. And because I look at writing as I not only write articles, but I also do poetry, also take photos. So I really just want to see more women winning. I think it was Bri who said earlier, or maybe it was Ashley, about how hip hop is mainly dominated by white men. And coming from growing up in like a household where music was a big thing, I never really saw like white men being that interested in hip hop. I hate to say it like that, but now that hip hop is expanding more and it's more of the culture, like if you look at it, hip hop is really the blueprint for everything, for fashion. Even more hip hop artists are becoming actors and building businesses and having joint programs with different media outlets. And I just really want that area to be more open for Black women, Black men, even just kind of shift it a little bit. I would love to see that.
Can I answer your question with a question to the panel?
Yes.
How do you all feel about the artists telling their own stories now? I recently interviewed Saweetie for Forbes The Culture, and like I'm so obsessed with her brand and how she puts herself out there. And her YouTube channel is like a little network of her life. She has her university, she does her vlogs. So I feel like the artists are telling the stories for themselves now. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that'll impact what we do?
That got awkward. I mean, I think, you know, kind of the overarching theme of what we've all been talking about is I don't think anyone can do us the way we do us. Like, the way Saweetie can tell her story is not the way you would tell her story, is not the way I would tell her story. And I don't think either one of them is, you know, more right or more wrong. I think there will always be a space for journalists and storytelling the way that we do it. And I think that can live in harmony with them also putting out their own content and owning their own stories. Just because, like, you know, if we were on this panel individually by ourselves, it's a different thing than the exchange that we're having here. And so I wouldn't consider it a bad thing, though. I am fundamentally opposed to the artist on artist interview, and I want it away.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say that. That was one thing I was gonna say. I think the one artist to artist interview that I did see that I liked, because it was just a wacky pairing for me, was Erykah Badu and Summer Walker. I felt like that was like kind of on brand for both of them. I think in the future, I hope we do have more Black and brown women writing and moving up. Like, I'm tired of seeing EIC appointments and senior editor roles go to the same group of people that have the same friends. I'm just really over it. So I'm truly hoping that we get more diversity as time moves on. I hope that this trend of supporting Black Lives Matter and like the Black squares and all of that, I'm really hoping that it's not gonna just stay in 2020. I hope it carries over into 2021.
And not to discredit any artists or anything, but most of the time when these artists are making content or whatever they're doing, they have a team behind them. And it's most likely a team of creatives, whether they're writers, whether they're photographers, whether they're videographers. And I know like everyone can be Beyonce and be hands-on, but most of the time they have a team behind them. So I really think like, more people should credit like Tiana Taylor. I love her, because if you look at Tiana Taylor when she does any project on Instagram, she lists everybody, baby, from the people who did our eyebrows, and I love that. I think we need to shine light on creatives and what they're able to do, because a lot of the times, you know, we see good videos, we see even these articles with artists on artists, and I don't know, but I think sometimes it's an editor behind scene that probably edited that and made it look good. So we don't know who's behind these people, but most of the time it's the creatives that are the powerhouses for them.
It's a great one. What else?
I think, or I hope really, that there's more job security, especially for Black and brown men and women in journalism as a whole, but also especially music journalism. You know, as someone who, this is my first staff position that I've gotten. I'm 23, so I'm young, but it still like surprises me, because it's not something that you are so used to hearing in a pandemic and in journalism. You're just kind of always talked about freelancing. There's so many amazing freelancers here, and clearly all these women, I've heard you talk for an hour, and I can already tell, and I've read your pieces, that you are valuable assets to media companies, and you deserve that credit, and you deserve that check, and you deserve those benefits. You know, we're doing the most. We're doing, you know, so much for the culture, and it really should pay off.
Yes.
I also have a thought. I'm gonna try not to ramble with it. But kind of going along with that, I feel as though I really hope that outlets start really valuing their freelancers more. Personally, I have only ever been paid for one piece I've ever written. All the things that I do are not paid. So I write because I think you mentioned it, Krysta, before, but like I write because I have no other choice but to write. Like I just have to write. But I really feel as though, and I get it, right? Because like a lot of these publications are indie publications, so they're not backed by like the corporations that have all of the money to be paying their staff. But I really hope that as time goes on, freelancers are also given opportunities that, you know, that they deserve. And yeah, I hope that made sense.
It did. Thank you, Sloan. Very much so.
I saw a comment that said, "Get your worth." And as I'm your big sister now, get a check, sis.
Yes, Sloan, I've seen that. Right?
Thank you.
Take advantage of you, sis. Nah. After this panel, it's not happening no more.
Thank you. I hope so.
Exactly. Definitely not. Yeah, moving forward, you deserve that check. You all do. This is the best of the best right here. So we're going to move into our very last question. What is one piece of advice that you each have for young women who want to enter music journalism? Your parting advice.
Know yourself, know your worth. Never take advice. I don't want to say don't take advice from anyone, but watch who you take advice from, because you also have to know where it's coming from, what stage in their life they're at, and just be confident. Be confident in yourself and in your work. You know what you're capable of. Don't let anybody tell you different. It's easier said than done, but you, like I said, you know what you're capable of, and just be confident in your writing and your skill set.
I definitely would love to hop in here. I've developed a whole platform called Put Yourself On. When I started out, I could not get a job in the industry full time. I had internships, I had the grades, I had the writing samples, or so I thought, and I'm like, why won't anybody hire me? So I created a blog, and that's where my opportunities came from, where I created the blog as a living resume. That's how I always would describe it to everyone. So I went out, I took it as serious as I would if I was working for a major corporation. I chose to do this, not pressuring you into doing it, but I established an LLC. So I really went about my career how I feel like an indie rapper would, right? Like I became the thing and then I tried to sell it to other people. So I feel like that is another opportunity as well. Sometimes from our experience, especially as a minority of Black women, we sometimes feel like we have to wait for someone to give us a chance. And it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes you got to go take it. I think just getting started, doing it for yourself brings a whole nother satisfaction and another skill set to a company, to a corporation, where you can bring that enterprising, entrepreneurial, scale down approach to things, and you can gain that experience on the job. So I would say just get started. Like, you don't have to wait for someone to deem you worthy. You are worthy because you want to. And as we said before, always study, know your craft. And once you apply that and show it over and over again, nobody can ignore you. No one can refuse you.
I love that. I'm just going to add, I can get very lengthy, so I'm going to keep this short. I think the best advice I'd give to someone that's an aspiring music journalist is to network horizontally amongst your peers that are around the same age as you. Because I think sometimes, like, when we go to journalism school, our professors and maybe like your dean is telling you to like aspire to be in touch with like those senior editors and editors in chiefs, but networking with people that are literally side by side with you is the smartest thing that you will do, because as you move up, everyone is moving up at the same time. And those connections are going to be personal things. Like, you're going to be able to text people, you're going to be able to call people. And that may be some of the easiest work that you're going to be able to do in your career, is if you really keep in touch with people that are on similar paths as you. And I'll just leave it at that.
And I will, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, hopping off of networking horizontally, I still talk to interns that I worked with a couple years ago, and I'm like constantly giving them resources, pitch opportunities at major publications. So it definitely never hurts to stay in contact with those people. And then internship wise, if you're struggling to find one, because I feel like sometimes it's hard to find a paid one or fellowships, and it's always such an obstacle. Newsletters, like, never underestimate newsletters. There are some really helpful ones out there. I have a whole list of them if you want to hit me up after this, but a couple of ones that I can think of right now. Mandy Hoffmichael has one that she does weekly. Adam Officer, there's a Music Journalism Insider newsletter. So I highly recommend subscribing to those.
And I will say that we'll have two. So the first is that while, you know, we talk a lot about networking, don't treat everyone like a mark. Like I would fight for Robyn in the street, like on a personal note. Like, she could be, if she, you know, wasn't a boss, you know, writer, and she was just an accountant or whatever, like, I like her as a person. I love her as a person. And so I would say, like, when you're meeting people, like, form genuine relationships. Like, don't go in their face acting like they're a walking, talking resume. Connect genuinely, and you won't connect with everyone, and that is okay. Like, I have, you know, people have looked out that I genuinely call my friends, and people have looked out who I've never talked to a day in my life. Like, I've never spoke to them ever, and they'll just be like, oh yeah, I got your name from so-and-so. And I'm like, who? Like, who dat? Like, I don't know them. Just be genuine. And then the other thing is, hindsight is 20/20, so it's easier said than done, but I've never got a no that was meant to be a yes. Like, literally nothing bad has ever happened that, you know, like, it hurt in the moment for sure. Like, I definitely was like, oh man, I really wanted that and I didn't get it. But the path to now has been very like, oh, things make sense. Things lined up the way they needed to line up. I got the experience I needed to get to the next step. And then, you know, if I got a no, maybe I wasn't ready for that. Maybe that's just not the room I was meant to be in. But certainly looking back, like, my steps have been ordered, like, everything has aligned, and I don't want anything that I've ever been told no for. So if you can somehow internalize that, if you're being told no, it's because it's like, that's not for you. Like, your thing is somewhere else. So yeah, just keep going, keep pushing, and stay focused on what you want for you. And yeah.
They say rejection is redirection, and no just means next opportunity. I just
right. I'm gonna try not to
that
ramble.
next opportunity.
I'm gonna try not to ramble either, but it's funny for me to say this and give advice because I feel like I'm still a writer trying to navigate through music journalism. So it's hilarious that I'm so grateful to be on this panel with you guys. But I would definitely say don't be afraid to work. I'm no stranger to hard work. The first article I got is because the editor remembered me from like a kind of like a networking thing that they had, and I waited for her outside after, and I talked to her and connected with her because I was that hungry. And I had the opportunity to also talk to Issa Rae's manager, and he gave me some great advice. And he told me, like, everybody thinks Insecure is a hit show, but no one knows that she wrote hundreds of shows before Insecure was that hit show. So don't be afraid to continue to pitch stories. Don't be afraid to be told no, because just like everyone said, no just means next opportunity, like Bobby said. And don't be afraid to apply for jobs you're not qualified for. I don't even see that in my vocabulary anymore because I feel like I could talk my way into anything. Because even if someone has a bigger resume than me, I always tell hiring managers, you know, it might be people that have bigger resumes than me. They might have more work than me, but they can't outwork me. So definitely just be hungry, work hard. Don't be afraid to go after things you don't feel like you're qualified for. You know, I'm a young woman from a very, very small town and next to no opportunities. And if you would have told me I would be writing for Teen Vogue, and then right after Teen Vogue, I was gonna write for Essence, and right after Essence, I was gonna write for Elle. Those are my first bylines. I would have laughed in your face. But one last thing I'm gonna say, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the one he calls. So just remember that.
Thank you, Krysta.
First of all, I feel like we need a quote book for what every like nugget of wisdom that was said. I'm like, how do I write this and pay attention? But
I'll be making one, don't worry.
Amazing, perfect. Thanks, Olivia. I wanted to touch on something that Bri and Bobby mentioned earlier about like reading, you know, just like your favorite journalists, whether it's music related or not, because you'll always kind of keep developing your own writing style. You know, I always pick up new words when I'm like reading someone's work. Like I read like draconian the other day and I was like, wait a second, this is now in my word bank. And like my personal background, I'm a non-native English speaker. I started speaking English when I was 5. I learned Amharic, the language of Ethiopia, first. And so I kind of struggled with English a bit, like in elementary and middle school, and storytelling was actually the way that helped me learn English. And like to this day, like I would just like open up a blank Word document and just see what would, you know, be on it by the end of the day. And it still excites me. And, you know, you're always just trying to develop your niche and to find your own voice and, you know, find your own sound. Music is so subjective. The way that I would describe a song could be different than anyone else on this panel. And so knowing what makes your music journalism will help you, because no matter where you write for, your byline is your byline. No one can take that away from you, and no one can take away your style of writing. That will always be inherently yours.
And to hop on reading, I want to add too that it's just as important to also read up on the business side of music and not just like the creative side, because whether we like it or not, it's a business at the end of the day. And don't want to rant about how capitalism is horrible, but I mean, business really affects everything. So I think it's really important to read like Billboard, Rolling Stone, Deadline to see like just how the business is changing every day and the updates that you need for that.
So I'm gonna try to form this into a coherent thought. But I believe that journalism is an art form, and I think it's really important to tell the stories that you feel personally connected to and passionately about. One of my favorite pieces isn't even a traditional music journalism piece. Also, apologies if you can hear the hail hitting the window.
I'm hearing it too. My own window.
Yeah. It's this piece called Thanks for Nothing by Sarah Benincasa, and it was it was published on the Medium, and it's a narrative piece about how it's about Phoebe Bridgers' album Punisher, but also it's about Ryan Adams and all of the terrible things that he did. And she has a quote in it that says, "When a woman makes angry art, it is by its very nature a refusal to make nice or back down. We make art because we can't not make art. People care or they don't, but we keep going." And I just feel like that is what we all have to keep doing, is just keep going. So yeah.
That is so important. Thank you, Sloan, and thank you all so much for your wonderful advice. Thank you all of our attendees for being here today and listening to these amazing women share their stories and advice. Everybody, we're gonna wrap up now. Make sure you follow Amethyst Collab on Instagram. It's just at Amethyst Collab. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a few great announcements coming before the end of the week, so make sure you hit us on Instagram. The recap of this will be on YouTube, and I will be compiling some good quotes. So thank you all again for being here with us tonight. Everyone have a good night. Stay safe.